Okay, inshallah, we're going to get started now. Did anyone have any questions on the quiz, anything that they were stuck on? Or should we just get into it, to today's lesson? All right, I'm going to take that silence as means that you guys did well on the quiz. So let's...
A quick comment, everyone. The answers to the quiz will be on the website, so you can go after the class and check.
So I hope everyone can see my screen. So today, inshallah, we're going to go over conditionals, Boolean algebra, and reading input. There's a lot to cover, but inshallah, we'll break it down for you guys and it'll be easy to understand. So the goals of this lesson are we're going to learn what a Boolean expression is, what a conditional statement is, how to use relational operators and how to use logical operators, the difference between the two, and how to write different conditional statements to make our computer do different things when we want them to do it. So here are some key terms that we're going to run through right now, and just try to remember these in your head, and we're going to keep on reiterating the meaning of them and how to use them in Java. So our key terms are what a Boolean variable is, which we talked about last week, which is just if something is true or false. And that's going to be especially important in this lesson. We're going to talk about what a Boolean expression is, what a conditional statement is, what relational operators are, and what logical operators are. So a Boolean expression is a statement that has a value of either true or false. So in Java, when we are doing things with Booleans, we are either going to say things are true or they're false, they're right or they're wrong. And the computer will take if that thing is true or false and do something with it. So an example of a Boolean expression is if you are hungry, if that's true, then you'd want to eat. So I'm hungry in this case is true. Right now in America, it's pretty cold outside. So we could assign true to the variable it is cold outside. Now, 2 + 2 = 5. That's not true. That's something that it's a contradiction. So it's false. So in this case, there are only two types of values, true or false. And Boolean expressions can be a single variable, but they're not always a single variable. And we're going to talk about that later on. So does anyone have any questions about what a Boolean expression is? This is just a review from last week, if something's true or false. No? Okay. So now, a conditional statement are statements that are executed if a condition is true. And sometimes if it's false, but that's a little complicated. We'll get to that. So an example in real life is if I'm hungry, then I'll eat. It's something that you don't want to do all the time, because if you ate all the time, you wouldn't be able to live. You only do things at certain times when you want to do them. So if it's cold outside, then I will wear a jacket. If it is dark outside, then I'll pray Maghrib. So if a condition is true, then I will do something. That's the pattern. You can also call it an if-then statement. If you do something, or if you want to do something, then you do it. You don't always necessarily have to do it. And so sometimes if something is false, then we don't execute the statement. So if it is not dark outside, then we don't pray Maghrib. If it is not cold outside, then we don't wear a jacket. And if I'm not hungry, then you don't have to eat. So in Java, we have three types of conditional statements. And the first type of conditional statement is called an if statement. And you can get the if statement from the beginning, if, of a conditional statement. So in this case, in this image we have here, if it is raining, if that is true, then we're going to stay inside. If it is raining is false, then we will go outside. Basically, the first part of a conditional statement can either be evaluated with a Boolean expression. It's either true or false. So in this case, the computer in Java will see if I am hungry is true. And if and only it is true, then and only then will it eat. If and only if it is cold, then and only then it'll wear a jacket. So again, in this case, if it is raining, if it is true, so if it is raining outside, then we stay indoors. So we do this in Java a lot. And how we do this is through an if statement. Basically, we have a Boolean, and that's a variable. and we assign an identity to the variable. And we can call it whatever we want it to call it. It doesn't necessarily have to be called is raining. We could name it whatever we want, but we want to make it logical. So the is raining can either be true or false. It can't be 1, 2, or 3. It can't be a string. It's either true or false. And all we do is we type in if is raining, and is right here, okay, is we are saying that this is true. So it is raining. You could assume that if we don't have an equal sign inside the if statement, we are saying that it's true. And if we have something that's not true, then we will edit it and we will write something to it. So here, can someone tell me what the output would be? It's at the bottom here. It's going to stay that we're going to stay indoors, because since Boolean raining is true, the if statement checks if this is true. If we set this to false, okay, we could do this very simply. Let me just show you guys how to do that. If we made an exclamation mark here and we call this false, or if we set this to false, then it would not stay indoors. So I will do that in Intellij right now. So here we have Intellij, and all we have to do is we type an if statement, and we also have a variable. So let's create a variable first. So we assign the type of the variable, which is a Boolean variable because it's true or false. We create a name for the variable, so we'll call it is raining in this case. And then we set it a data type. So is it true or false? So we set it to true. And so then we create an if statement. So we type in if, and we type in is raining. And we want to make it false this time. So let's say it's not raining outside, then we want to go outside. So all we have to do is type in if is raining equals false. Then you just do some open and close brackets, and then you do whatever you want to do. So system.out.println. You can output whatever you want it to be. So stay or go outside. And if we run it, give me a second. So nothing happens here. Why does not? Can someone tell me why nothing happened here? Just unmute your mics and tell me why nothing happened here. Mohammed, you want to take a shot at it? Do you know why nothing happened here?
Aryan, maybe check the chat. Okay. I think people are saying
okay,
something.
Yeah, sorry, I can't. Exactly, Bashar. The condition is false. So, if we changed the variable to false, can someone tell me what would happen then? Exactly, Bashar. So what if we changed this to false? Then what would happen? Yes, false would equal false. But what would the program output? It will print go outside. Yeah, exactly. So the reason that it will print go outside is because it matched what the variable was equal to. So inside the if statement, all it does is check to see if whatever's inside it is true or false. And if it matches, then it'll execute. If it doesn't match, then it doesn't execute. Now, the second type of conditional statement is called an else statement. Now, an else statement is whenever something is false. So we can tell the Java program to do something if none of the variables match the expression. So for example, here, the else statement would be false. Now, why would we use an else statement? It's because we don't want to use multiple if statements. So in the last example, I had an if statement if it was raining. I could create another if statement if it was not raining, or I could be a little bit more efficient and just say else. In all other circumstances, we go outside. So we write this in Java by writing else and then an open bracket and a close bracket. We don't have to put any parentheses because it doesn't matter whatever happens. It's any extraneous case, anything that was not covered by this if statement. So so in this case, is raining is true. So for anything that's not covered in the if statement, then we will go outside. So in this case, if is raining was false, then and only then would we go outside. But because it's true, and the output is that we stay indoors. Okay. So in this case, is raining is false. And so it runs through the program. So the first part of it checks to see if is raining is true, because this basically means is raining is true. So if it is true, then we will stay indoors. But we know that is raining is false. So the computer says, we're not going to do this one. So it goes down to the next one and it says else, meaning if it's false, then we'll go outside. So because the else statement matched with what the is raining equal to, the console printed what the else statement wanted it to do, which is go outside. Okay, now in Java, we don't always necessarily only have true and false, because sometimes we have other different types of things that we want to do. So we have two different types of operators, and we mentioned this in the key terms slide. So the first type of operator is called a relational operator. And a relational operator just shows a relationship between two numbers or two values. So we use them to make more complex conditional statements. And there are 6 main types of relational operators, and you may have used them in your day-to-day life. They are equal to, not equal to, greater than or equal to, less than, and less than or equal to. Now notice that the equal to symbol has 2 equal signs, and the not equal to symbol has an exclamation point. In Java, a computer sets a value by only using one equal sign, and it checks a value by using 2. So 2 equal signs is Java's way of saying, oh, I have to check. And the exclamation point, which we'll cover later, just means not in Java. So here's an example of using a relational operator in a Boolean expression. Now here we have 2 numbers. We have the first number is 12 and the second number is 4. And the type of variable is an integer because they are numbers without any decimal points. So in the first Boolean statement, in the first Boolean expression, we have system.out.println, which just means print this. And it says num1 is equal to number 2. So 12 is not equal to 4. It's not. So what it does is we then add a num1 equals num2. So we're telling it that yes, num1 equals num2. So the computer checks that and says, something's funny here. Num1 doesn't equal num2, so it outputs false. Is that confusing to anyone? Does anyone want me to go through that again? I'll go through it one more time with the next one. So here we have num1 is greater than num2. So this is true. So num1 is greater than num2 because 12 is greater than 4. So all that means is we're going to output, and notice that this is not a string. This is merely an operation being done because it's not inside quotation marks. So it's something that's being done. So the computer is checking to see if this is true. And since this is true, it's going to print true. And for anything that's false, it's going to print false. Does anyone have any questions so far? If you do ever have questions and you don't want to ask them, you can always privately message me because sometimes people might be having the same question as you. Okay, so we're going to use a relational operator in a conditional statement. Now, remember, conditional statements are if statements and else statements. So here we have a double, and basically a double is anything that can include a decimal point. And the name of it is battery, and it's 8. So our battery is at 8%. So we created an if statement if our battery is less than or equal to 10%. So if the battery, if your battery percentage is less than or equal to 10%, then your phone will write, your phone battery is low, please charge your phone. This is a useful example of a conditional statement because sometimes, you know, we're on our phones or we're on our laptops and we run the battery down. So it checks to see how low your battery is and then just outputs this so long as the condition is met. And because 8 is less than or equal to 10, then it will print this. Now, if our battery was at 50%, it would not print this because the if statement would not match the actual expression that's shown here. So we're going to go through a quick classwork exercise. All we're going to do is write a program that does the following. You're going to create a variable called temperature, and it stores any number. You can make whatever number you want. Now, if the temperature is greater than 30, then you print, let's go swim. And then use an else statement and just write the pool is too cold. So before we do that, I just want to run through if statements again and else statements just to make sure that you guys got it down. So if statement is written by typing if, and then in parentheses, whatever you want to be true with brackets, and then inside the brackets, you do a command. An else statement is just else brackets and then the command. So let's go back to classwork exercise. So again, you're going to have a variable called temperature. And so if the temperature is greater than 30, print let's go swim. And if it's in any other case, then write that the pool is too cold. So we'll give you 7 minutes. So at 6:14, we'll come back. If anyone wants to see me walk through it, you can stay in here. So just type in chat if you want to do it on your own or if you want to stay with me and watch me run through it. All right, everyone. So I know some people got done a little bit early, so I'm going to give them the opportunity to try and explain how they did it. So Muhammad or Bashar, or does anyone else want to volunteer how you completed this exercise? Come on, guys, I'm sure you can do it.
Can you check the chat? I think we have 3 volunteers, so maybe we could go with 1.
I'm sorry, I keep. All right. Sure, Muhammad. Can you show it to us? Let me stop sharing.
Yes, assalamu alaikum everybody. Everyone.
Salam.
So just let me share my screen. You can see it now, right?
Yes.
So I start with a double temperature and I put it as 30.1. And if temperature is greater than 30, then print let's go swim. And else, if it's not greater than 30, print the pool is too cold. And I put a number, it's 30.1, and I will. So 30.1 is of course greater than 30, and it print let's go swim. Let's change the number to 13 and run it again. It shows the pool is too cold because of course 13 it's not greater than 30 and it print the pool is too cold.
Awesome. Alhamdulillah. Great job.
Any questions?
That's perfect. Yeah. Does anyone else have questions on how he did that? So you just utilized an if statement and an else statement. Exactly. Okay. So, and if anyone ever does have any questions, all the mentors check in with you guys during the classwork exercises. Just make sure to check in chat. If you're having any trouble, mentors are here to help you guys. Okay, so now we're going to go over logical operators. A logical operator is used to combine two different Boolean expressions to get a complex expression. So it's like a compound sentence. For example, it is raining and it is cold outside. And that combined would mean it's raining and it's cold. So the three most common logical operators are the and operator, the or operator, and the not operator. So we can make different sentences just changing this and to any one of these other operators. So for example, we could say it is raining or it is cold outside, or it is raining and it is not cold outside. So we can use these logical operators to make even more complex Boolean expressions. So the and symbol, the or symbol, and the not symbol. As you can see here, the and symbol and the or symbol are doubles. There's two ampersands. Ampersands are those funny little symbols on your 7 key. And then you have the straight lines, which are above your enter key, next to the, I think that's a forward slash. So when you hold shift and you hold down that button, that creates the or symbol. And if you hold down shift and create the 7 and hit the 7, that's the and symbol. And again, when we are checking things in if statements, these will be used with, there will be 2 of them. And then the not symbol is just an exclamation point. So again, the exclamation point is Java's way of saying it's not the case. So if you put this in front of anything, it just means that it's not. Does anyone have any questions on logical operators? Because we're going to go through them a little bit more in depth now. Okay. So the and operator, which is the thing above your 7 key, that combines 2 separate Boolean expressions. And for something to be executed, both of those expressions must be true for the entire expression to be true. So for example, if it is raining and it is cold outside, I will wear a jacket. But let's say that it's not cold outside. So it's raining, but it's not cold outside. So I won't wear a jacket. And it's not executed because it's not cold outside. So this will become a little bit more easy to understand on the next slide. So if we wanted a Java program to tell us if a number is in between 1 and 100, we would use the and logical operator. So here we have an integer and we created the number, we made it 45 here. And so we created a conditional statement here, and this is an if statement. So if the number is greater than or equal to 1, and this was from our relational operators, and, which just means and, this number is less than or equal to 100, then we will print the numbers between 1 and 100. If we changed this number to 0, it may be less than 100, but it's not greater than or equal to 1. So this won't go through because one of the conditions is not met. So both conditions have to be met for this thing to be true if there's an and statement here. So since this is 45, it is greater than or equal to 1, and it is less than or equal to 100. So it's completed. But if this was 2000, it would be greater than 1, but it would not be less than 100. So the whole thing is scrapped. So we also have an else statement here. So if those were the case, something else would happen. So since this number is 45, it did this operation because it meets both conditions. And as you can see here, it says the number is between 1 and 100. Now, this and example, again, we can run through it. So if the number is greater than or equal to 1, the number is not less than or equal to 100. So with the and logical operator, again, both expressions need to be true. All right, now we have the or operator. So the or operator, again, if you hold shift and click the little button above your enter key, that's the or operator. So this means only one have to be true for the entire expression to be true. So in a sentence, that would be or. So if it is raining or if it is cold, I will wear a jacket. So the statement is executed because at least one Boolean expression is true. So here, let's say you want to retire, okay? And we have our age and we have our money. So the general age for retiring is 60. So if we were 34 and we had $999, okay, if our age is greater than 60 or our money is greater than or equal to 1,000, I can retire because I have enough money to retire or I'm old enough to retire. Else, I cannot retire. So in this case, I'm not old enough, so I can't retire. But if I was young and I had over $1,000, I could retire, but I don't. So the whole thing is scrapped here and I can't retire. In this case, I'm young, but I have enough money. So one of the conditions is true because int money equals 1,000. And here, although my age is less than 60, this is a typo here, then my money is greater than or equal to 1,000, so I can retire. So it's only if the one condition is true. Both conditions can be true, but both conditions don't have to be true. And so here again, this should be less than. If our age was less than 60, but our age is 61, but our money is not equal to 1,000, I can still retire because I'm older than 60. So does anyone have any questions on the OR operators? No? Okay. So then finally we have the NOT operator. All the NOT operator does is executes the command if whatever is inside the parentheses is not true. So this basically is the opposite symbol. It's like on opposite day, you know, you say, I want to do something, but it means you don't want to do something. That's basically what the NOT operator can do. So instead of saying it is raining is false, you could say it is not raining is true. So an example is, if it is not raining, let's go outside. But we don't say it by saying if it is not raining. So it'll clear up in the next slide. So again, the not operator is just an exclamation point. And here we have an if statement. And inside our if statement, we have the not operator, the exclamation point, basically saying whatever is inside this thing, just think of the opposite. So inside it, it says is raining is true. We know here that is raining is false. So what this is saying is do the opposite. So this checks if is raining is false, even though it says true, all because of this operator. So I'll explain that again. This does the opposite of whatever is next to it. So since this is true, it would actually look for if it's false, just because of the not operator. So if is raining is not true, that's how you would read this. If is raining is not true, then stay inside. So if it's not raining, stay inside. So those are all the different operators that we can use. Does anyone have any questions on the not operator? Because I know that one's a little bit confusing.
Can you have some thumbs up or say like yes in the chat if you understand?
Awesome. Okay, so let's continue then. If anyone does ever have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. You can always privately message me or any one of the other mentors. So we went through two different types of conditional statements earlier. We went over if statements and we went over else statements. Now, what if we have more than one condition? So let's say if it is raining, if it is sunny, if it is snowing, then the else statement would put all of those together. So instead, Java has a different type of statement called the else if statement. So the else if statements are used when you want to express more than one condition. So here we have a variable x, and x is equal to 0. Notice how there's one equal sign here. That's because we are setting a value. So if x is greater than 0, we print x is greater than 0. Now here down in else, we have x is less than 0 because we want it to be anything less than that. But that's only greater and less than, but this would also encompass equals than. So for example, if the middle part didn't exist and we had this and we set x to 0, it would print x is less than 0, even though x equals 0. So instead, we use an else if statement for certain circumstances, very specific circumstances. And in this case, we made it equal to x is equal to 0, and there's double equal signs here because we're checking a variable. So it prints out x equals 0. So I want to go over that again. An else if statement is only used for specific circumstances. So I'm actually going to create an else if statement on Intellij, if you don't mind. So here, okay, so we have what we had earlier, which was the temperature work we did. So over here, we have our integer temperature is equal to 50. And so we have if temperature is greater than 30, it says let's swim. Else it prints out it's too cold to swim. Now this says equals to. It doesn't include, this says greater than, it doesn't include equals to. So what if we set temperature to 30? Can anyone tell me what would happen? What would print out? Exactly, too cold, even though it's equal to 30. So if we run this program, oh, there's an error here. Okay, but you're right, Waleed, it would print out too cold. So instead we would just type in an else if statement, and we could set the temperature equal to 30. And then we would print out, system.println. We could print out just right. And then it would print that. Let me stop sharing. So that's the type of case that we would use an else if statement for. It's only if the else statement encompasses values that we don't want it to encompass. Awesome. Does anyone have any other questions on else if statements? Just put a thumbs up if you get it. Does anyone not get it? Because that's also okay.
I think we have only 3 thumbs up. So anyone else, if you understand, then say yes. If you don't, then say I don't.
So I'll just run through it again just to make sure that it's clear. So an else if statement is used when an else statement includes things that we don't want it to include. So in this case here, we have the time of day. And let's say we're going to use military time here. So if time is less than 10, then it's the morning. So our program prints out good morning. If the time is less than 20, it prints out good day. Otherwise, it prints out good evening. Now, if we didn't have this else if statement, let's say that the time was 11, that's the daytime, but it would print out good evening. And we don't want that, so we use an else if statement and include specific circumstances or other types of conditions that we want the program to check for. Now, in this example, this is an example of weird code. And basically, computers read things from top to bottom. In English, we read things from left to right. In Arabic, we read things from right to left. Computers read things up to down. And so basically, it just outputs, it goes through things line by line. So before I go over this in more detail, does anyone still have any questions on else if statements? Okay. So in this case, we have time is less than 1, is equal to 1. And here we have two things that are both true. So the time is less than 10, that's true. And here, time is less than 20, that's true. So can anyone tell me what would print? Would it print good morning or good day? Okay, Bashar, why would it print good morning, Bashar? The first if statement. Okay, and why doesn't it go to the second statement? Why doesn't it go to the else if statement? Yes, all right, Waleed, I'll do that right now. Okay, yeah, of course. So computers read things and execute things top to bottom. So it goes line by line. So in this case, it reads public class main, it goes down here. So now it understands that time is equal to 1, okay? So then it goes to this if statement and says, oh, is time less than 10? And it checks, says yes. So then it does the whatever's inside it, and then it ends the program. It doesn't go on because it already met the condition. So that's a good thing to know, because sometimes we don't want that to happen. We don't want things to just check and end. So if we made this 2, that's true for both of these, but it goes through the first one. So sometimes if we had put good day in the beginning and it was morning, that might confuse our programmer. So just things go from up to down. And this is just a side note. This is not extremely important for you to know. It's just a good tidbit for you to know. Things go from up to down and they execute in order. And execute just means run. That's another word for run. Awesome. So we're going to have another classwork exercise. And basically, we're just going to have a program that does the following. If I'm 18 or older, or if I'm at least 17 with a 100 as my grade, I want you to print that I can go to college. And if neither of those are met, then print that I can't go to college. So a hint there is to use 2 integer variables, one for age and one for grade. This one's a little bit more complicated than the last one. So we'll give you till, I think it's 650 for you guys. So we'll give you till 650 to complete this one. And again, your mentors will check in with you. So just message them if you have any questions, and you can always message them privately. And when you're done, just type in chat that you're done, please. Thank you. All right, everyone. So I think, inshallah, we can continue. If anyone does have any questions on the classwork exercises, then you can feel free to, keep on asking. But now we're going to start off with our third goal on our agenda, which is to learn how to read user input. Now, this basically means that the computer can use whatever a user types into the console. And an example of this is when you're typing in your username or your password, or when you type in a Zoom link or a Zoom password, the computer checks to see if the password is true, and it can understand and take in whatever you type into it. So input means you're giving information to a computer, and output means you're receiving information from a computer. So here, the computer is going to try and read whatever we can type into the computer. So there are a few steps, and we're just going to run through each step. Basically, we're going to do something called import the scanner class. We're going to create an object to store user data. We're going to ask for user data. We're going to assign data to a string, and then we're going to print something with user data. So the first step is to import the scanner class. Now, what does this mean? Well, an import means to bring something in. And a class is just a program. It's like our main class. Whenever we create a new project, we create a new class. And so each class, whenever we create a class, is just a different word for a program. And so programs do things. So some classes or some programs are built into Java, so we don't have to write them down every single time, but we have to find a way to access them. So for example, the scanner class can read user input and ask for user input. we don't have to recode a scanner class. We can just take what Java already made and put it into our program. And we do these things by importing them. And what we do is we import a package that holds a class. So if you look at the bottom, I created a little graphic. We have the command import, and we would do this whenever we want to import something into our program. We have the package name, which in this case is java.util. Util stands for utility. Sometimes this package name will differ depending on the class that we want to bring in. Sometimes we want to bring in classes that companies made. So we would type in com dot, like .com, and then whatever the name of the package is. And then finally, we include the actual name of the program. So in your programs in Intellij, it should probably say main on the top. So in this case, we're just importing a program and its name is Scanner. And it already has all the code inside it, and we don't have to do anything to it. It's already perfect for us to use. So the second step is to create an object to store user data. Now, an object is a very heavy topic, which we'll go into in later classes, inshallah. But for our purposes, we'll go over what an object is. So an object is basically an instance of a complex data type. So an example of an object is when we have a string and we assign it a name. A string name is equal to Ariane. So in this case, name is an object. So we're going to create a different type of object called scanner. So in this case, the object is user input. So we're going to create an object that is a scanner, and we do what's called, we create a new scanner and system.in. Now, we type in system.out.println whenever we want to print something, and that does something called output, which, as I said, is when we receive information from the computer. Here, system.in means that the computer is going to receive information from us. So it's going to allow us to type into the console, which we'll go over what the console is. And again, if that's a little bit confusing, don't worry. But does anyone have any questions so far? Is everyone good so far with what objects are and how to import packages into our programs? Just put in a thumbs up if you're good so far.
Aryan, can you quickly go through the last slide again? Since Mohammed Kilawi just missed that.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No problem. So basically, the second step in creating being able to read user data is to create an object to store user data. And all we do is we create an instance of a complex data type. So an example of an object that we've already used or we already know is a string. And so the object here is name. And in this case, we're going to create a different type of object called scanner. And so we type in scanner user input. We can name this whatever we want it to name. We could name it whatever we want it to name. And then we create new scanner system.in. And the object here is the scanner user input. And system.in just means that it's going to take in information from the user. So basically system.out.println or .println basically means that we type out, the computer prints out something, but in system.in, it's going to take in something. Now, the third step is to ask for user data. And this is just for the user to know that it wants to type something into the console. So now that we've imported the scanner class and created an object, we just ask for the user data. So we say system.out.println, what's your name? And basically we would need a print statement to tell the user what we really want. So on Zoom, it might ask you for the meeting password, or when you open up your laptop, it asks you for your username and password. So that asking is what we need to do just for the user to understand what we want them to do. The fourth step is to assign user data to a string. So basically we get the user data and we store it. So once we ask the user for the data through that print statement, we need to get the data from the user and store it. And so we would store it usually in a string. You could also store it in different types of data types. For example, if you wanted to create a password that was all numbers and no letters, then in that case, you might change this data type to int. So basically what we're doing here is we create a string and we can name it whatever we want. And then it equals user input dot next line, open parentheses, close parentheses. We don't put anything in here because this just denotes, or just means that this is a function, and this function is stored in the scanner class that we've imported into our program. So the statement above is going to take anything that the user types in the console and then store it in a string called name. And then finally, we print something with the user data. So we could return it with, like in this case, we ask for a name and then we print out, hi, my name is this. So I'm going to go through it in, I'm going to actually show you guys how to write one in Intellij. But for now, I'm just going to go through each step and show you how we did this. Basically, we asked a question. So to gather user information. And so in this case, we asked, what is your name? Then we recognized what the user wrote by creating an object called user input. Then we defined the string with the user input. So we created a string variable. And then we returned it with hi plus name, because name is whatever the user inputted. So we did not ever like assign a static variable to name. We never wrote name is equal to, in quotations, Ariane, because this doesn't necessarily have to be Ariane. It could be any other name. You could type in Marwa and it would come out with Marwa. You could type in Bashar, it would write out Bashar. You could write out Roa, you could put in Roa, it would write out Roa. So let's actually make one on our own through Intellij, because this is actually a pretty important topic. So open up main. So I hope you guys can see this. Let me just delete.
No, we can't see it.
You can't see
we
my.
can see something else.
Really?
We see a Spotify thing.
Oh, sorry. It's same colors.
Also, if you can, everyone, could you please turn on your videos, especially the students, because we want to see if you understand the lesson. So if you turn on your video, it will be easy for us to know.
Can you see this now? Or do you still see the same?
Yes, we see it.
Okay. Sorry about that. That's just some MP3s I have. All right. So let's create a scanner class. All right. So can anyone tell me what the first step that we have to do is? Let's see, chat. Okay, so yeah, we import the scanner class. So how do we import it? So we type in import java.util.scanner. So java.util.scanner. So java.util is the package, and scanner has a capital S. So just remember that for whenever you're importing the scanner class. So this just, and we'll comment this out, this is just to import the scanner.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I see anything. I think your screen is paused. I don't see. Now I see it. Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. So we imported java.util.scanner. So just, and then semicolon, and then we can comment this as importing the scanner. Now in our main function, this is where everything happens. First, what we want to do, can anyone tell me what we want to do first? How do we get the information? No, we don't create an object first. That sounds right, but we actually want to do something before then. We want to ask a question. Yeah, exactly. So system.out.println. That's right, Mohammed. So system.out.println. Let's go with something different than a name. Let's go with how old are you? So how old are you? So we did that. Now what we do is what Bishop said, we create an object. So we create an object by typing in scanner, and scanner has a capital S. And now we can name this whatever we wanted to name it. We could type in user input, right? But instead we could do this. We could write in user's age. And so then we type in equals new. New just means we're creating a new one, scanner. And then we type in system.in. Now these little syntax stuff is going to be all in slides. So whenever you're doing the homework tonight, or whenever you're doing the homework, you'll be able to see how to type these. And the more you practice, the more you'll be able to memorize it. Now, so what does this do? This just recognizes what the user wrote and stores it in an object. So now that we have an object, we want to change that object into a different type of variable. So what type of variable do we want to make this, if this is for age? Yes. So let's go int, and we can name it whatever we want, but we don't want to name it the same thing here. We could, but it's just going to get confusing. Let's just call it age equals. Now what we do is we take our object, user's age, and type in dot next line. So what that does is it basically defines the thing with exactly Bashar. So this is what I wanted to do. So a scanner, it cannot recognize different data types. It can only recognize a string. So it's a good thing that Bashar called that out, because we won't get the error message. So whenever you're doing that, what you want to do is you want to recognize that scanners are meant to take in user input and return it, because you cannot combine a data type with a different data type. That was the first rule that we learned last week. So if we wanted to return something in a system.println, we can't combine a string with an int. So we'd have to keep it the same type of variable. So that's just something I wanted everyone to remember from experience, from seeing this error message coming up and from Bashar pointing that out. So instead, we want to change this to string age equals user's age dot next line. Awesome. Now, all we do is, what's the last step? Can someone tell me what the last step is? Anyone. Doesn't have to be Bashar Muhammad. It can be anyone. All we do is yeah, exactly. Okay, Muhammad, I see what you're saying. So yeah, you just return it back. So again, the reason we can't do an int is because when we do this, system.out.println, right? Let's say we want to say, oh, you are, okay. So we want to include the age here. Now, if age was an integer, there would be an error message, because you can't combine what this is a string, with an integer. So if we created an integer and included it here, it wouldn't be able to combine the two. It's like mixing oil and water. It doesn't work. So since it's a string, we would type in age. And remember, we don't put variables in quotation marks, because otherwise it wouldn't recognize it as a variable. And we end the program. So sorry. So sorry about that. All we have to do is we run the program here. So here it asks, how old am I? So I personally am, I'm 16. So we'll type in 16, and it says, oh, you are 16. So now what I said earlier, right, is that you don't want to make this an integer, because the scanner won't recognize it. Now, what if we did make it an integer, right? So let's get rid of scanner and let's just set it to an integer. Int age equals 9. Now this works. Okay, it'll say that, oh, sorry, semicolon. Now this works, okay, because it's in a system.out.println. Now the reason that we don't use an integer in scanners is because a scanner just cannot recognize other data types. So that's how we take user input and then return it. So let's just go over the steps one more time. All right, so the steps again were to import the scanner, to ask a question, to create an object, to assign the object to a string, and then to return the user data with system.out.println. So now what we're going to do is a little bit of a pop quiz. And if you guys get this right, then you may or may not get a reward. So let's do a pop quiz here on the spot. And I want a different person to answer each question. So there's going to be 3 different people doing each 3. So can anyone tell me, this is from earlier in the lesson, what the 2 main types of operators are and give me an example from each? It's okay if you're wrong. Don't worry about it. That's how we learn. If and else, that's a good guess, but that's actually the 2 types of conditions. So that actually answers the second question. But does anyone remember what the operators are? It has to do with if and else statements. No, true and false. No, that's another good guess, but that's just the Boolean values. How can we make an if statement? It's if something is, what does it do? All right, I'll go over it. So the 2, yes, that's one of them. Good job, Basha. So equal to. So what type of operator is that? You know, Basha? It's okay if you know. That is a relational operator. So the 2 types of operators are the logical operators and the relational operators. So the relational operators relate 2 numbers or 2 values, and they're the equal to, the greater than symbol, or the less than symbol. And then we have the logical operators, which are the and, the or, and the not. So then I think Walid answered conditional. Now, can anyone tell me what importing does? Someone different that I haven't heard from. Can anyone tell me what importing does? Or why we use it? Okay, well, I guess not. Well, in importing, I guess I'll go over it again then, just so that we. So to import something, yeah, exactly, Basha. So it's to bring something in, it's to get a class to make our work easier. So I'll just go through this a little bit one more time, just to run through it so everyone makes sure that they get it. Importing is, we're just bringing in another type of program so that we don't have to code it all on our own again. And in this case, we brought in a scanner class, so we don't have to type in all that code. And we do that by typing import the package name dot the class that we want it to be. That's it. That's all that importing does. So now that we're done that, good job, guys. Let's go on. All right, so key terms. So I'm going to give you guys maybe 5 minutes. I want everyone to write down or to think of examples for each term, and then we're going to go over them. We'll give you a little less than 5. We'll give you 3 minutes. So at 7:21 for you guys, I think, or 22, because it just changed. Then we'll go over this again. All right, so our key terms, inshallah: Boolean variable, Boolean expression, conditional statement, relational operators, and logical operators. Here are definitions that we came up with, as well as some examples. So, can anyone else tell me an example of a Boolean variable or what it means? What did you guys come up with? True or false? Good job, Rock. Exactly. Okay. What about a Boolean expression? It's very close to what Ra said, a Boolean expression, because Ra got this one right, but what's a Boolean expression? What did you guys come up with? No? All right, we'll skip that one. What about a conditional statement? Can anyone tell me an example of a conditional statement? Exactly, Buckup. Good job. All right, what about relational operators? We went over this during the pop quiz. Yes, good job, Waleed. All right, and what about logical operators? Exactly. Good job, guys. So this is what we had. Pretty much what you guys wrote word for word. I mean, Boolean variable is a variable that holds a value of true or false. Now, a Boolean expression, that's something that you guys had a little trouble with. That's just a statement that evaluates true or false. So it's anything that's inside the if statements. Then we have a conditional statement. You guys got that one right. The if, else, and else if. Relational operators compare two variables and numbers. And then logical operators connect two conditions together. So in this lesson, I mean, you guys are great. So we were all able to learn what a Boolean expression is, how to use relational operators, how to use logical operators, the different types of conditionals, if, else, and else if, and how to get input from the user using the scanners. So alhamdulillah, you guys did pretty well. I want you guys to stay on in a minute. Here's the link to the homework. It's also in our website, and I'm also going to post that in chat. And just be sure to email your Java file to the email here. So that's the link to your homework. Now, Rumesa, I believe you wanted to take over here for Telegram, right?
Yeah. Does everyone see this screen that says Helping Hand Computer Science? Just say yes, one of the mentors even.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, so this is the website that you will come to if you need to join the Zoom meeting. So the meetings that we have every Saturday. We will also be holding office hours. So if you want to come for help, if you don't understand the homework or the classwork, or you don't understand a specific concept, like you did not understand if statements, then you can come to office hours. So office hours is a time where you can come and ask questions. We will hold them from 4 to 6 p.m. Jordan time. So on Sunday and Wednesday. And you can find the link to that right here. So if you click on this, I'm not going to join, but it should ask you to join the meeting. So that is the link to the office hours. If you want to see the slides for any of the weeks, so week 1, it is right here. So I'll just open that on a new tab. So this presentation is right here if you want to look back. And also the week 1 recording, I saw some of you guys looked at it. So if you want to see what we did 2 weeks ago, this is that video. If you want to see what we did last week with variables and data types, you can watch the video here. And you can also find the slides over here. with all the slides, all the content. And the classwork will also be here. So for each week, we have a section for classwork. So if you did not understand and you want to review it again, then we have a separate document with all the classwork problems. So a description, maybe sometimes we will have images. So this is the document. And we will make sure to post this. So for week 3, which is today, we will post the classwork exercises tonight, so you can look at them again. And we will also post the solutions. So if you did not understand something before you ask for help, you can also look at this document. So this document explains the solutions for last week, the classwork that we did. So you can look at this. Number has each problem. So question 1, this is the same format that will be for each week. So question 1, question 2, and question 3. So just like that, we will also do this for every week for classwork and for homework. So, so for homework, you have to upload your homework by this Thursday. So for week 3, you should upload it by February 11th. And then on Friday, we will post the solutions to the homework. So for example, for week 2, we already have the solution. So if you want to see where you went wrong, then you can look at this. And you can also come for office hours or for help on Sundays and Wednesdays. So that's all I wanted to share with you guys about the links. And extra reading is here. So if you understand everything and you want to learn more, then we will have extra reading for you.